Expert encourages people to choose joy over junk in their homes. But what if Marie Kondo decluttered politics? Stephen Kent from Young Voices is live with me on the Final Five to discuss this. Good to see you again.
Yeah, nice to be here.
We've not had you. I was surprised when I realized we've been on the show many times in the big board.
Yeah.
Skype. This is the first time you're
on there.
There's a reason why, because we'll bring that in a second. But first of all, you've been watching this show, right?
I have. I'm a neat freak of the first kind.
Okay. So what draws you to Marie Kondo? Because I know a lot of people. I have my places.
An excuse to throw things away that don't belong to me and belong to members of my family. All of you know that. Can find reasons to throw things away that I never had before. Yeah. Sparking joy.
But you said something earlier that I thought there was a level of understanding that you get out of the show that we don't have in this culture. Yeah,
I mean, it's a really great example of cultural sharing where someone comes over from Japan. In the case of Marie Kondo, she has sort of a cult following here in the U.S. It becomes a phenomenon over the course of a single weekend when this special releases and people are all of a sudden rushing to thrift stores to get away from their stuff because they realize they're just suffocating.
And apparently thrift stores are seeing like influx of all sorts of crap, for a better word.
And it's questionable whether or not it's helpful.
Well, here's the thing. So we were wondering, you know, if you took the whole gist is you look at an item in your house and you decide if it sparks joy. And if you like it, you put it back, and if not, you thank it for its service and you throw it away.
Yes.
So we decided to adapt these principles to politics. So we have a couple items here. We'll pull them up on the big board and we'll decide if they spark joy or if we should thank them for their service.
Let's do it.
All right, so number one, we're going to start with the filibuster. Of course, you remember Ted Cruz filibustering Obamacare on the floor of the Senate by reading from Green Eggs and Ham. The filibuster, Stephen Kent. Does the filibuster spark, not necessarily Ted Cruz, but does the filibuster spark joy? Or do you think it's for service?
How could it not spark joy? These people go on to a in front of C-SPAN and all of their peers, and they read storybooks, they talk about whatever they want to, all for the purpose of holding up bills they dislike. I think it's the greatest practice of democratic government that we have. We live in a republic where we have processes, not just sort of a tyranny of the majority situation.
How deep you're getting over Green Eggs and Ham.
One guy or lady, gal, can hold up the whole show unless they get dissent.
Just by doing that.
I love it.
All right, number two, this can go either way. We're going to have Sarah Sanders here, but the topic, we went back and forth on this, but I think really we're using her as a conduit for the White House briefing. A lot of people say that the gist of the White House briefing has gone way off the rails. It's for grandstanding. It doesn't necessarily serve the purpose, but we also know Sarah Sanders has not had a briefing in a while. Doesn't really do them much anymore. Sparking joy, thanking for its service.
I have no joy associated with the press, whatever that is, the gaggle.
But do you think it's an issue nowadays where it's just about getting that 5 seconds on air to get that clip that's going to air across every network?
It's PR for the journalists who are there, and it's also just propaganda for the White House. Like, I don't feel like we should be subjected to this sort of announcement of whatever their talking points are on a daily basis. It's a waste of our time.
Okay, go ahead and
we thank you for your service, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We don't need this anymore. Goodbye.
By the way, we mean this is in the White House briefing, not about Sarah Sanders. All right, number three.
Like you, it's fine.
Number three, we're talking about executive orders. This is something the president's been fond of. We know that President Obama created DACA by way of executive order, which people said was unconstitutional. We know the president has signed a number of executive orders in his early days in office. In fact, I think he boasted that he signed more than many other presidents in office. Executive orders, your take?
No joy. There is nothing in the Constitution that assigns a role for executive orders. It's an entirely made-up thing.
But they can do it. They're the president. They can do whatever they want.
We got away from this with the revolution. Like, we don't want kings. Why do we even have this? It's a made-up thing that just started out of nowhere, and it's picked up steam over the course of 3 generations. It's out of control.
All right, let's do it.
Throw it out. We thank you for your service. There were good things that came of it. It needs to stop.
Number four, New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. You may remember this last week. He was seen on the beach in Puerto Rico with Democratic lawmakers while everything was brewing here. In fact, today, this got some play on the Senate or on the House floor when a Republican member yelled out, "Go back to Puerto Rico," to Democratic lawmakers because they were at a junket with lobbyists, if you want to call it a junket, while everything was going on here in D.C. And the reason I put him on the list is because I think when you see images like that, when you see politics, look, we know the government ain't working right now. That is not an image that you want to put out to to your constituents that we're having fun in Puerto Rico.
Doesn't bring
right
you
now.
joy, does it?
Does not bring me joy. So I say this, Senator Bob Menendez, thank you for your service, but you're out.
Should have been gone a long time ago, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. He was facing corruption charges and.
How is this still a thing?
Well, he was I wouldn't say exonerated, but a mistrial. Finally, this is something you mentioned this one, and this blew my mind. The IRS. So the IRS, I think that you would imagine that something like this, we would thank the IRS for its service and say goodbye. But the IRS is back for right now, but with one important caveat.
Well, they're going to bring us our refunds, but they're currently not doing new audits. So I don't want to say I've ever had any trouble with the IRS, but maybe you have, viewers. So they're not doing any audits. So come on back. Give us our refunds. We need to go on vacation.
So you're saying the IRS, you're the one person in the world the IRS sparks joy in.
It sparks joy for me. They're going to send us on vacations and give us the money
get the refunds.
back.
That's
Let's
right.
do it.
All right, you're in town for LibertyCon this week, right?
Yeah, sure am.
What's going on there?
Libertarians from across the country are coming together to talk about the ideals of liberty that are currently lost in this country. So it's a great conference here in D.C. You should go to.